Written, directed and produced by Isaac Lawrence. We are talking The Tormented. And this is a 2024 ultra micro budget movie from Southampton in the UK. And that's actually where I live, which is why I was interested in kind of watching this movie. Lawrence, a resident of Southampton himself, reached out to me and asked me to review this movie. And because it's from the same city that I'm from, I was more than happy to. But this is a very, very low budget movie, so do be warned. Now, Lawrence has made a bunch of short films prior to this, but this is his first foray into feature directing, and he's a young guy. What is the story? Well, it focuses on four adult friends as they decide to go on a camping trip to honour this guy who was actually married to one of this group who has passed away in a road accident, and they kind of want to go to this tree that he proposed to this woman, one of the group, at, and then just kind of like reminisce and stuff. So once they get out to this kind of area, they start to kind of have visions about these sort of strange kind of hallucinations, kind of taunting them, tormenting them, you might say. There's some type of kind of presence in this forest, some type of possibly creature or evil force that our foursome must contend with. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So that might sound like a found footage movie. It isn't. It does have a couple of found footage scenes, but it is a traditionally filmed movie. So, as I've mentioned, a ultra low budget movie. What can we say in the positive column of this one? I actually do think the movie has a neat kind of idea when it comes to the story as a whole, and its kind of twist and about the reasons about what's actually happening. I actually kind of quite liked it. I do think it might have been better suited to a short, if I'm honest. I don't think the premise really stretches out to a feature-length movie, but as a kind of concept, I think it was a kind of quite a fun idea. And it has themes of what you would do for love, ultimately. And this is kind of what this movie is all about, really. We have this foursome of friends, one of which is the kind of the widow of this guy. And, she is kind of honouring him. And as the film goes on, it asks the question about the relationships between people and, what you would do for love and what love means and things like this. And how love can potentially be manipulated, and I actually thought some of those themes were actually reasonable here. For such a low budget movie, and I would estimate, I don't know, but I would estimate the budget of this movie is probably no more than around £2,000, to be honest. So it is a micro budget film. There's an attempt here to have a little bit of gore. We have some quite fun sort of sound effects with some type of force in the woods and creature or something, obviously kind of making use of what they've got available. And it's a very English film in that this is a film about people going camping and it's raining the whole time. Very typical of England, what can I say? That kind of made me laugh, but it's like, yep, we're going to go camping, it's crap weather, but we're going to do it anyway, and we're just kind of ignore the fact that it's raining all the time. I kind of found that amusing. But let's talk about what doesn't work. And I'm going to be honest with you. Unfortunately, this movie suffers from a number of somewhat severe problems. As I've already alluded to, in regards to the story, it does have, I think, some good ideas in respect of the kind of the plot and the reasons why things are happening. But I think the concept is stretched out to a feature when there was not enough meat on the bones to have a feature. Had this been a short story, I think it could have been a lot more effective, because there's a lot of time with people just kind of like contemplating long drawn out scenes where nothing really is happening, a lot of banal kind of dialogue sort of sequences and things like that. And the concept is just too stretched out for a feature. Had this been cut down to a 15 to 20 minute short and part of an anthology or something, I think this maybe could have been a little bit more effective, and the good ideas that maybe it did have would I think hit certainly a little better than it currently does, where the movie feels quite drawn out and ultimately a little dull at times, to be honest. And there isn't a lot going on outside of this kind of like the main plot elements here. Unfortunately, it is a lot of unfortunately dead air really in this movie. It's also not helped, and you know, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone involved in this movie, but the acting is quite poor, and it is universally poor. As in, there's not anyone here that gives, you know, sometimes with films, like some people are okay, some people aren't, you know, maybe not so good. Here, unfortunately, it is quite poor acting across the board, unfortunately. And again, this is such a micro-budget movie. These probably aren't people who have had a hell of a lot of experience or training and stuff like that. Probably friends of the director here. But nonetheless, whatever the case, the acting, unfortunately, is pretty bad, I'm sad to say. It's not helped as well by, I think, some very sort of stunted dialogue sequences. The dialogue here is not natural sounding, unfortunately, and the delivery of the dialogue, again, is very, very wooden, unfortunately. So we have a long, drawn-out film with not a lot of plot, really, with a lot of kind of like, you know, establishing shots and sort of, you know, someone contemplating sitting down, or long scenes where, you know, it ultimately could have been a few seconds to, you know, to have a particular shot, but instead we've got like 60-second shot of something rather than like a 5-second shot, along with kind of like poorer acting, poorer sort of dialogue and stuff like that. The pace of the film is very slow. There isn't a lot of actual overt horror elements on screen, to be honest with you. You know, it is kind of like very, very meager budget, and they've, you know, obviously I think there's like one gore shot, but some of the kind of like the makeup effects are pretty, you know, again, pretty low budget, and are really not going to convince anyone here. It is a very dreary film in the fact that the way it's shot. I mean, ultimately, yes, it's a film about people going camping, but it's the fact that it's like raining is never really addressed. I mean, it is obviously they've got this time for these actors to do these scenes, and it just happens to have rained, but they've had to kind of just soldier through it. But everyone's here in like rain max talking about, oh, there's a lake we can go skinny tipping, and it's literally tipping down of rain, and like no one's really kind of like mentioning it and stuff like that. So I think there needed to be a little bit more, if you're going to have this guerrilla style filmmaking, you know, ultimately I think you have to be a bit more malleable in regards to kind of having to deal with situations like weather and things like that. But it ultimately also gives it this kind of like dreary feel, just this kind of, and if that had been incorporated into the story, maybe it would have been better, but you know, it's just one of those things. Ultimately, I think this movie would have fared better had it been a short. I think it could have been a more of a punchy film. You could have got rid of some of these like banal dialogue sequences that just doesn't help. There's not a lot of story. The movie tries to have a reasonable amount of characterization, but you know, unfortunately, the dialogue and the delivery of it are just quite poor overall. So it kind of falls a little flat. I don't really think this movie will be particularly kind of an exciting watch for anyone, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, this is the first feature-length movie for this writer-director here, so we'll obviously see what he comes up with next, but ultimately, we've all got to start somewhere, I suppose, but we have to be honest about what this movie's like, and I have to think about, obviously, someone who is going to watch this and judge it accordingly, not really give, you know, too many breaks for that other reason. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. I don't think it's a particularly fun movie to watch, if I'm completely honest, but with more experience, we'll see what these guys can come up with in the future. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing it next time.